Happy Halloween, everyone. I'm Jason Barrows with jerryjamesstone.com, and today we're going to make some fun Halloween cookies, candy corn cookies, and let's get baking. So our first step, we're going to cream our butter and our powdered sugar together. We want that to be nice and fluffy before we add any of the ingredients to that. So we're going to put in our butter here, slightly softened. We want that to be able to cream very nicely. And our powdered sugar. All right, so our butter and our powdered sugar is nicely creamed, and we're going to add the egg and the vanilla next. Next, we're going to add our flour, our salt, and our baking soda, which has been whisked together in the bowl together. So it's nice and mixed throughout, and we're going to add that to our butter mixture. So now it's time to divide our dough into 3 equal pieces. You can do one of 2 things here. You can grab a scale and divide them out evenly if you want them exact, or you can just kind of, eyeball it. What I usually do is start with a piece, make a ball, make another piece. Just make sure that when you're dividing your balls of dough that they just more or less feel like they're about the same size. You can kind of feel where your fingers overlap or touch your other hand, and also just the weight. They don't have to be exact, just as close as you can. And again, if you do want it exact, just pull out your scale and you can do it that way. So we're gonna leave one dough white, and we can just put that off to the side, and we're gonna make an orange and we're gonna make a yellow now. All right, it's time to mix our orange dough. When you use food coloring, it can seem a little difficult. Just a couple of, pointers. Since we're mixing colors, we're not just making, one color. We have to use red and we have to use yellow to make orange. I always suggest just doing like 1 drop at a time, like maybe 2 drops of red, 2 drops of yellow, mix it, see where you're at. If you add too much of one or you add both at the same time, you could be spending the next 10 or 15 minutes trying to fix your color. So start easy, you can always make it darker. I always like to use a spatula. The food coloring will get on your hand and not come off. Alternatively, you can use some disposable food grade gloves, knead it with your hands, whatever you prefer there. So I'm just gonna put a couple drops of each on top of the dough and see what I get. Okay, I'm gonna mix now. So now our doughs have been mixed and we're ready to assemble. I've lined a loaf pan with some plastic. We're first going to start with the white cookie. We're going to put that on the bottom, followed by the orange, and on top of that, the yellow. So before I put the dough into the loaf pan, I'm just gonna flatten it out a little bit just to kind of make my life a little bit easier when I put it in the pan. It doesn't have to be exactly flat, but just enough so that you're not putting a round ball into the pan. We're just going to put that in there. You can use your hands, you can use a spatula, whatever is going to get the job done for you. I'm just going to use my hands real quick. Now when you do get it flattened out, I do like to take the spatula to just make the surface nice and flat. You want the line between the layers to be as flat as possible. All right, so now we're ready for our orange layer. And the reason why we lined our pan with plastic is just for ease of extricating it out of the pan when it's chilling in the refrigerator. Otherwise, you really have no way to get it out. So the plastic is just to make a nice, easy, malleable way to be able to get that out later. So now we're going to take our orange, flatten it out slightly, and we're just going to put that right on top, flatten that down. Make sure that you're getting right into the corners, and you want to make sure that it's not like rounded at the corner. You really want that corner to be nicely covered. Again, I'm going to go over with my spatula just to make sure that it's nice and flat. Okay, and last we've got our yellow. So one thing about food dye, I don't use it often in my recipes. Sometimes it can actually have an off taste to an item. So the more bright your color is, the more dye you're going to add, and it actually can impart bitter flavors into your baked goods. So if you're looking for something specific, you know, just be aware that your dye could actually potentially change the flavor. So, you know, just a preference, but bright colors will mean more dye, and that will also change your taste, so just remember that. All right, now that you've got all your layers on, what I like to do with the plastic is I like to fold it in on itself, just kind of like wrap it up like a present, and then I like to gently press down on all the layers just to make sure that all the air bubbles and everything in between the layers becomes nice and compact, and we're just really getting a nice, solid, even brick inside of our loaf pan. So here we go. So now this needs to chill for at least 4 hours. I would recommend leaving it in overnight and just cutting them the next day. You really want this dough to be nice and firm so that when you cut it, you can get it into the oven quickly and it still retains its shape. So again, at least 4 hours, I would recommend overnight on this. So we're just gonna put this in the fridge, wait for this to chill, and then we'll go ahead and cut this up. Okay, so now that the dough has been chilling for at least 4 hours, again, I recommend overnight, we're going to take that out of the pan. We're going to unwrap the dough completely out of the plastic, and then we're going to set that on a cutting board or cutting surface, and then you're going to cut widthwise across the dough in about 1/4 inch slices. And then what we're going to do with our knife is we're going to actually cut triangles. So you're going to alternate one way and cut the other way, back and forth until you cut one slab, and then just continue to cut the rest of the slabs and cut across, back and forth on a diagonal. Then you're going to put those on sheet pans lined with parchment for 6 to 8 minutes at 350. You want the cookies to be slightly puffed and the bottoms to be slightly golden brown. So we're all baked here. We're all ready to go. Got our cute little candy corn cookies here. So there we go. We really hope you like this recipe. If you have any questions or comments, please let us know. We'd be happy to answer them for you. And we'll see you next time. Thanks a lot. They're not as difficult as you might think. So, I'm gonna turn all red.